All right, so continuing our discussion of microeconomics, we're going to really zoom in here to what that looks like if you would like to start a business. So what types of businesses did you guys come up with? Again, sole proprietor is known. If you don't know all the fancy terms, we can just try to think of some categories. So what do you think?
Franchise?
Nailed it. Yeah, franchise. What's an example of a franchise? Yeah, McDonald's, classic franchise. One of the first in our country, in fact. What's another example? Well, Chick-fil-A would fall under what? A franchise, absolutely. So, yeah, no, I didn't communicate that well. What's another type of business? Yeah, entrepreneurs. So you have an idea and you're risking your own money. Entrepreneur is a French word meaning to undertake. So you're starting a business, and that could mean any number of things. And so what types of businesses might that entrepreneur start? So we've covered sole proprietor, meaning you're going solo. That's one of the neat things about business. You can do whatever you want. You can include as many people as you want or not. You can start a franchise, meaning that you're providing a good or service in a similar, if not identical, format in multiple locations. What other types of businesses might we see? Say again? Yes, a partnership. So the idea of starting a business is scary. For one, if you're an entrepreneur, you're risking your own money. That means you stand to get a lot of money or not. You might lose your money. You might be going to a bank and borrowing that money, in which case you're in huge debt if your business goes bankrupt. You might even have to declare bankruptcy, meaning this could be your one shot at starting a business. So it would be a smart move if there's someone you can trust when buying a partner. Anybody else? Yeah.
Would resale
Like resale. Yeah, and that could even fall under department stores. And when we're thinking eBay, we're getting into like big time corporate stuff.
Yeah.
So corporations are a type of business, and we'll be looking at those too. Okay, so let's start our little baby business, and we're going to try to grow it and hit corporate level by the end of today's lesson. So businesses operate under a certain set of rules that aren't always the same as the rules that individuals play by. And you'll see some of the differences. So we'll start with a proprietorship. A proprietorship. This is the most common form of business. These are what we call small businesses. They're the simplest. And the simplest of those is the sole proprietorship. And there are some advantages to being a sole proprietor. Number one, the freedom that you have. If you want to sell stickers, sell stickers. If you want to make stuffed animals, you do whatever you want. The only constraint is that the product has to be legal. Your means of obtaining said product have to be legal. I mean, you play by the same rules as anything else. Otherwise, you charge what you want for it. You keep what you make. And then when your income reaches a certain point, then yes, you'll be paying taxes on it. eBay even does that for you automatically. They're like, oh, I'm small time in the eBay world, so I don't actually have to pay taxes on my income. My buyers have to pay taxes, sales taxes, but I'm not yet taxed on income yet. Once I get a certain point, at that point, it becomes a business, and there's even a separate distinction between eBay. So it's easy to start. You can start your eBay account in minutes, and you can post your first item within 10 minutes. It's easy to start a business. It's easy to make decisions about your business. Every so often, I look through my inventory and lower some prices, provide some incentives, and I communicate directly with my buyers. There's no middleman. And of course, the beauty of this is taxes are lower. There are some disadvantages. For one, I'm lucky in that it's not my day job. It's just a side hustle. And I don't have any debt associated with my business. I've acquired all of these random things, just kind of like y'all mentioned, as a resale opportunity. Some of them I bought, I'm just getting rid of. Some of them I inherited, and I don't need. So I have no debt associated with this. If I did, I am a 100% liable for that. Not only that, but unlimited liability means that if a customer is unhappy with my product, I have to refund. And I had to do that. I mean, eBay provides me a yearly statement, losses versus revenue. And I lose several $100s a year due to returns. So again, it's small time, but it's still significant. If someone wants a refund, I haven't encountered a situation where I've won that argument yet. eBay's going to lean on the side of the consumer. So I'm liable. It's also difficult to raise capital because if I'm small time, then my sales aren't going through the roof. And if I am going to raise capital, it's going to take quite some time. I'm going to have to begin to invest. I'm going to have to, if I stick with the antique thing, I'd have to start going to estate sales. I'd have to start investing real money. And it would take a long time to get to be any type of big player. I am nowhere near the point of hiring someone. And if I were, that would be a very stressful position to be. Because in the world of work, you'll find that good people are scarce. And that you get what you pay for in the working world, just like in everything else. And so if you're trying to keep your labor costs low, then finding talent and attracting good people is going to be a challenge. So you're more likely to be overworking yourself for several years than starting a business. I mean, folks I know who have started usually live at the site. They run things out of their home, or if they have a commercial property, they live upstairs. Okay, so will it be easy and fun to run a business? I hope you're getting the impression that it's not easy. Would it be fun? Well, that's relative, right? Let's see. Gray, can you hear me? Gray Thompson?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, if you were to start a business, what do you think you'd do?
If I were to start a business, it would probably be something art oriented, like based on stuff that I can create either for commissions for other people or just create and then sell.
You said artwork oriented?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you would create something and then maybe produce it for clients and then sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's really cool. So potentially there could be a low overhead there. And then depending on the type of work you're doing, I mean, it's definitely a lot of effort, but it sounds like that's something you'd enjoy, right?
Yeah, I'd very much enjoy it.
It would be so cool. So it's just a matter of figuring out how to monetize that. Okay, now making work that could be monetized, I imagine that'd be a lot of work, wouldn't it? Or what do you think?
Yeah, it definitely would be difficult to start off at the very least because it's hard to get publicity in the early stages.
No, you're right. And I mean, some of you guys are so talented that you could probably just produce amazing things in a simple way. But I think you hit on a good point there that increasing your market base, ooh, that's not easy. It's easy and fun to run your own business. You know, I've been doing this YouTube thing since 2015, and I've made hundreds of videos at this point. And I'd say I'm like a third of the way towards sponsorship. Not that it's ever really going to amount to anything. I'm making for y'all, but just out of curiosity, again, you know, I like some side hustles. I've always been interested. Would this turn into a business? And I've had to learn the hard way that there are people who are way better at YouTube than I am, even on the educational front. And they invest enormous amounts of energy, and the best ones are investing quite a bit of capital as well, production costs and so forth. So I'm not at a place where I can compete on any significant level. I feel like I can make some good content, but I don't think I'm ready to make a business out of it. Okay, the next type of business, and we hit on this one, is a partnership. And I've been watching crash course videos since the early days. When John Green first began, it was his high school history teacher who had an idea to make videos for the benefit of their students, in particular to prepare them for their AP exams. And that was it. So they were really on the same level I was once upon a time. And they began to produce these videos, the two of them working together. His teacher did the research and production. John Green was the host of these video series. And their very first one was on American history. And so I've been using it for quite a long time. And even from the early days, they had a pretty good production going. For what it was. It was shoestring, but they did okay. And as a partnership, they worked well together. And over time, as their fan base grew, as their subscribers began to grow and they reached a market audience, they were picked up by PBS. And so now they have a lucrative sponsorship and partnership with a larger entity. But it began as just these two people, which I think is really neat. And I would imagine it's rather lucrative for them at this point. I don't think it's made millions, but I think they do okay. So it's run jointly by two or more owners. And in terms of the complications, it's as complicated as they want to make it. If you're going to go into a formal business with someone, there are legal documents that you can agree to, that you can use, tools that you can use, because even if it's your best friend, it might not work out. You might have a falling out. Going into business together is very stressful. It's like a marriage. It's all peaches, rainbows, and butterflies at first. But sometimes preparing for the worst can be a smart thing. So that's where the articles of partnership come in. Okay, the advantages. Strength in numbers. If you have partners, they're invested. If you have employees, they're not invested. You know, those of you guys who work for hourly wages, if you bust your tail and work your hands to the bone, those hourly wages don't increase. You have very little financial incentive to work hard versus not working hard, which means that many hourly employees, even many salaried employees, will only work as hard as necessary to stay out of trouble. Partners, meanwhile, have a financial incentive to work hard, because not only are they included in the company they're invested with their own money, Now, partnerships can grow. You can start out with 2, you can wind up with 20. In fact, many family medical practices are partnerships. I mean, several doctors get together and say, let's rent an office space and we'll work together. Let's share some administrative staff. And that's the family practice I go see, is a partnership. Now, with partnerships, there's no corporate taxes. And we'll come back to what that means in a little bit. And also, of course, if Gray and I were to go in business together, I have no clue and no talent when it comes to art. But Gray might approach me and say, can you help me with the business side? You're like, okay, I know enough to at least get started. And so we could partner, I could do the business side and Gray could do the talent side. There are disadvantages. For one, if my partner and I have a falling out, it's a mess. It might just be simpler to dissolve the business. Because splitting it in any sort of way, I mean, buying out the partner, selling the business, splitting the proceeds, it gets complicated. And the 2 of us or the 5 of us are still liable for whatever. Okay. Think about it this way. If you have a space where your business is hosted, and someone comes to that place and gets hurt, because anything can happen, or they're using your product. Let's say you're selling online, but they use your product and get hurt. Well, right? You're in a sticky situation. Let's say I go to my parents' house, I get that Lego set, I put it all together, package it nicely, sell it for a decent amount, and then some kid chokes on it. Am I responsible? eBay's lawyers have something to do with that. I hope they do, because those things happen. So the next level of business is a corporation. Now, corporations are really interesting. And this is the point where your businesses become profitable, you go public with it. Going public with it means that now you're opening up the opportunity for individuals to invest in your company. And just like a sole proprietorship, those people who are invested in your company are entitled to a share of the profits. And so that means you can sell stocks. You can sell little pieces of your company. So instead of you and a partner going 50-50, or you and 3 people going thirds, it's you and potentially millions of people who own now this piece of the company. So this means that your company's grown quite a bit. And you're going to need some leadership and some direction, because now you are involved in a business that is serving many people and that is responsible for generating revenue for many people. Now, this board of directors would likely have nothing to do with the business itself. If you're making hamburgers, they've likely never flipped a burger. They're your lawyer types. They're your business associates. And it is their responsibility to ensure that the corporation is as profitable as possible. And they'll hire managers to do the business side, to actually run the places. So for one, there are many advantages to this. If you go public with your company, it's easy to raise funds. Because now split pieces of your company into shares. You can still retain control by having the controlling percentage of shares, that's 51%. But assuming that your business is big enough to do this, That means you can farm out the investment. You can seek capital from that other 49%. And you can grow your business to be huge. In fact, you may even reach the point where you hire professionals to manage your business. And all you do is collect the money. That's pretty sweet, right? So you hit the point where other people are running things for you. All you have to do is cash the checks. And one of the beauties of being a corporation is you have limited liability. Limited liability. See, if McDonald's tanks and goes into debt, the corporation itself becomes responsible for the debt, not the owners or the stockholders. Meaning that if you purchase a piece of Cracker Barrel, the value of that share may go up or down, but you'll never go into debt because of that share. That's up to Cracker Barrel. Now, if they go bankrupt because they're in too much debt, your share may become worthless, but you'll never have to owe money. Okay, one of the big disadvantages is this is not something many of us are likely to do. Very expensive to start a business, and then it's a lengthy process to get big. And at the point that you've gone corporate, you're no longer completely in control of your company because you've handed control over to this board of directors. You can retain the largest portion of the shares, but you might not. Meaning this board of directors might wind up having more power than the person who started the business. There's also quite a few rules that go into corporations and how they work. You know, the bigger something gets, the more complicated it gets. And also, there's a double taxation. Corporation has to pay taxes on their profits, and then stockholders have to pay taxes on their dividends. So that means shareholders are taxed twice on the same money. You can still make lots of money doing this, but it's certainly very complicated. The next type of business, and Ella kind of mentioned this with Goodwill. Or was it Goodwill that you mentioned, resale stores?
Yeah, I was kind of doing that.
Yeah, so a good chunk of when we cleaned out my grandparents' house, you know, Dad and I found a few things that we thought would be worth selling, but most of it we donated to Goodwill. And then Goodwill will sift through that and decide if there's anything worth selling, and they run a business off that. But Goodwill's a nonprofit. In fact, their business model is that they will hire folks who might otherwise have a hard time getting work, and they will help them be successful. And they will teach them how to maintain employment, and they really provide a great opportunity for folks who might not otherwise be able to hold or keep a job. And so as a result, they're able to retain a nonprofit status. And they're run very similar to a corporation, but in terms of their profits versus losses, they as a company don't generate revenue. Their CEO makes lots of money. Their board of directors makes lots of money. The managers of that, you know, these people are still earning a living within these nonprofits. Think churches, for example. Churches are nonprofits. They don't generate revenue. Their balance sheets are zeroed out each year. They spend the money that they make. Pastors make a living. Counselors, choir directors, all the folks associated with church staff, they make a living. You can do that as a profession. But again, the company itself is a nonprofit. And there are some advantages to working this way as well. Hospitals, social services, or even cooperatives.